So a client of mine asked me to make a beef Wellington, and I was a little scared because we have to make it gluten-free, which is really hard. So took a little bit of trial and error. We went through 3 different brands of puff pastry. So we start with a Prime Tenderloin beef. So it's a whole piece of beef about this big, and then we cut it down just to the middle part until it's like a perfect log, weighing about 2 pounds. So this 2-pound piece that we ended up with of prime beef from our local butcher cost us about $300. So I really didn't want to mess this up. Have to get it right on the first try.
What was the first thing you did after you cut down the tenderloin? What do you do after that?
After we got our log of tenderloin, we sear it on the cast iron skillet so it gets some color all the way around on all the edges. Then we quickly take it off at about 110 degrees so that it's a little bit undercooked. And then we just let that set aside in the fridge. Next, we chop up some mushrooms really finely and cook them on the stove until they get really dried out. This step's really important because once everything is cooking together, if anything has too much water in it, then the steam stays inside of it, the whole Wellington, and then makes everything soggy, like the bread soggy. So yeah, we got to dry out the mushrooms. Then we take some Dijon mustard, brush it on the outside of the seared steak. Then we add the mushrooms around that. And then we take some really thinly sliced prosciutto, which is a ham that gets wrapped around everything. And then finally our puff pastry, which had to be gluten-free. And we went to 3 different stores to find this puff pastry that is, the only one that we could really use for Wellington. So all in, we ended up spending about $400 to $500 just on this one meal for one client.
Tell me like the final step, so once everything's assembled and put together, what do you do after that?
Once we have the puff pastry on there, we score some lines in it. It makes it look really nice after we bake it. It also allows a little bit of the steam to escape so that we don't end up with that soggy bread like I mentioned earlier. So we brush it with a little bit of egg on top to also give it a nice shine. And then it needs to go in the oven for 45 minutes to 1 hour. We're looking for the temperature on the inside to read around 135, which is a perfect medium rare on the steak, but then also allows everything, the crust and everything, to be nice and golden brown. We set the oven at 425 degrees, so it's super hot and gets that crust along the outside without overcooking the steak in the middle.
So the Wellington that you made, how many people does it feed?
Yeah, so that from that 2-pound piece of meat that we had, after everything's wrapped on the outside and we cooked it, we weighed it again and it's 4 pounds. So I would allow half a pound to 1 pound per serving, depending on, how big of an eater you are. So in theory, this could serve 4 to 8 people.
Would you do it again?
Yeah, I'd probably do it again. It was a lot of work, but it was fun. And once we got the technique down, it's definitely a lot less scary, and we know what to do. So I could make a Wellington again. So how many people actually like beef Wellington? Give me a comment below and let me know if you actually like it or if it's just a big hype. If you want to try to make a gluten-free Wellington for yourself, I added the full recipe in the description below. Check it out. If you like this video and want to see more content like this, you can like, subscribe, give me a comment. And also, if you're in the Chicago area, we serve personal chef and meal prep clients in the Chicago area and suburbs. You can reach out to me. I'm Chef Ariel, and I would love to cook for you soon.